You're listening to Scribble Talk Teaching, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and I'll be sitting down with our industry leaders to dive deep into the topics that business-winning professionals like you can use to help grow your skills and your business. Today's guest is Pippa Birch. Pippa set up Pipster Solutions in 2012 with the aim of providing simple, effective bid writing service. Over the last 12 years, Pipster Solutions has evolved. Today, Pipster is a team of 7, still providing quality writing, but also a lot more in bid management, coaching to over 50 plus clients. More about Pippa in Scribble Talk 69. We will refer you to that so you can get to know about her over there. But today, we are going to talk about becoming a freelancer and scaling it even to become a good bid consultancy. So welcome, Pippa, to Scribble Talk Teaching.
Thank you, Bhaskar. It's lovely to be here.
Well, let's go back. 2012. What triggered you to become a freelancer? Talk us through the before and the decision of becoming a freelancer.
So I had a lovely job working for a company in a great office. I was a bit of an outpost. The main bid team was in the Midlands and I was down in the Southwest, and they started to send me the odd freelancer to help me out. And I just found that the level of service was not what I would want. I wanted to give more, and I thought there was a better way of providing a cost-effective service where instead of just parachuting in and writing and then disappearing, that you would become a part of that company's team and you'd build long-term collaborative relationships with them. And that's kind of, that's what I've done from the beginning. And I think that's what sets us apart from our competitors sometimes.
Perfect, Pippa. So you saw someone coming and doing freelance work and you thought, hey, you know what? I could do a better job.
Yeah, basically.
Exactly. But on the other side, these guys are paid a lot more than me. I'm in a fixed role. But still, Pippa, I know it's good to have the thought process. But becoming a freelancer, once you set up your own company, go back to finding clients, how was the transition immediately?
So it took me quite a while. It took me about 6 months to decide to set up a company as opposed to being a sole trader. I had a lot of advice on that. It was recommended to be a limited company. So I set that up in the March, and I didn't jump ship straight away. I was on my own with my daughter at the time, and I had to do a lot of deep thinking about whether I could still keep a roof over our heads, where the work was coming from, that sort of thing. I had a good job. But I wanted to be a bit more flexible and I wanted to be my own boss, really. And I think it was at the end of that summer that my company sent me on a leadership course up in the Midlands. And while I was up there, I was thinking, why am I doing this? I could be doing this for myself. So while I was up there, I actually put my resignation letter in. I wrote it in the hotel printed it out for me, and I took it in the next morning. And they were all really, really supportive. So I worked my notice out for 4 weeks, and during that time, some of the people that I worked with put me in touch with other people in the industry, and so I walked out on the Friday and straight into a 2-week review and proof job on the Monday, and I never looked back, really.
Wow. So how was it? I mean, like when you are a full-time person, obviously, the end of the day you'll still get paid, so you'll be fine. But when you're a freelancer, that Friday to Monday transition means you need to set your own standards. You need to ensure that you add a lot of value within the shortest time as a freelancer. How did you mentally prepared yourself for the transition?
Well, it was scary, to be honest. It is scary. It's especially when you haven't done it before and you've been used to having that nice regular paycheck. What I did do was I had a pot of money to pay at least 1 month's worth of bills lent to me by my friend at the time, who subsequently I've been with now for 10 years. And so I had that pot of money, so I knew I'd be able to pay the bills for a month, and I thought, I'm just going to suck it and see. And I never had to use that money, and the money keeps coming in. That first 3 years was worrisome. If I had a contract on, and if I didn't have anything to follow on at the end, I'd get a bit jumpy because I'd think, oh gosh, is the work coming in? But basically most of the time, kind of the week before or a few days before a contract was due to end, I'd get a phone call and I'd walk straight into the next one.
Nice. So
lucky I was.
You were always blessed, Pippa, let's put that way.
Totally blessed, yeah.
Pips, I think on the very first day you became a freelancer, that Monday, what did you tell yourself? And then you're starting this thing, because people would expect, since you are paid on a day rate or an hourly rate, etc., they would try to maximize the fee with the shortest time, right? How was that experience?
Do you know what? I felt an utter fraud. I do suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome. And I think most of us do, because we care deeply about the work we do. And I just remember I was lucky that first job was about, I don't know, 20-minute drive from my house. So I took a long time getting ready, and I thought, right, you're not somebody's employee now. They're looking to you for advice. So it was a real physical, put the right clothes on, hold my head high and walk in with confidence, good hard handshake with looking people in the eye was what was required. And that's what I did. And they said, right, we've got 4 answers. Can you sit there and review them for us and then tell us how we can improve? And I said, of course I can. I was thinking, I hope I can. Of course I sat. I mean, this is a long time ago now, and I sat there and I thought, oh right, I can see what's wrong with that. This is what I'd change, and I just got into my flow. And when we sat around the table and talked about it, they were very receptive to my changes. And actually, at the end of the day, when I went home, I thought, wow, that was, I can do this. This is what I was born to do. I love doing it, and I can do it under my own steam. So yeah, it was great.
So I think you were you might be surprised how much you know already, and by the end of the day you might have tapped yourself and said, perhaps you did well.
I think it helps having supportive people around you, though, that do know how you work and have seen how you've worked before when you've been employed, that can say, no, you deliver this for us on a daily basis, you'll be fine. I think that little bit of support and cheerleading from the sidelines by people that understand what we do was really important.
Totally. So I think there are some powerful lessons immediately here. You made the choice to become a freelancer, and it was a decision. Then you very quickly planned, okay, at least for 1 month, let me cover myself in case, and you got that. And then you had relationships, so got your first role, you were confident, you nailed it. At the same time, you had a support network that told you, you are in the right direction. That's just brilliant. I mean, yes, once you had that first freelance role, you did mention after that things starts to flow across. Did that mean that you registered yourself with multiple interim agencies, or?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't quite sure that the work would flow, because although I was well known in the highways industry, I wasn't quite sure at that point how much work, how far word would travel, and whether to do it word of mouth. So I thought, right, I'm going to cover all bases, and I sent my CV to 4 or 5 of the bidding consultants at the time. And I got quite a lot of work through one, and that kind of steamrolled then. And and then I started to create my own clients. Sometimes there was one tender company that I did quite a lot of work for, and worked with one of their Midlands clients, and another one came in for them that particularly tender company couldn't do because they were doing it for someone else, and they said to me, why don't you work for them direct? So that those sort of relationships were really, really important to me in those early days.
100%. I think A, you were also building your own network. B, you were also registering yourself with established agencies. That puts you into a best position of both, whatever comes first that you go. Now you are in the flow of becoming a freelancer. When was the first time you actually took a break?
I can't remember.
that's
I think I probably had, because I started in September, and I think I probably had Christmas Day.
right.
Because when you first set out, you kind of want to take everything that comes on board just in case nothing else happens.
Okay.
So you have to be careful that you don't become a busy fool, as it were. And actually it was after that Christmas, because I knew because most people that are employed go off at Christmas, and everybody likes a freelance that can work over Christmas, because we all know public bids come out kind of before Christmas, due back in January. So there's always lots of work for freelancers that want to work over Christmas. But I got to the point, I think probably a good 6-7 months in, where I actually realized that saying no was okay. If I was honest and explained the situation, and actually people came back, even those that I had to say no to. But I didn't, certainly for the first 3 years, I didn't take many holidays. And if I did go on holiday, I took my laptop, because you do worry that you're going to miss an opportunity. That's
true, Pippa. And that's the challenge. I think once you become a freelancer, you should be always up at the edge, which is like, okay, the availability. By the time you finish one, the next might pop up, or unfortunately, you might be finishing up the one and you might have 3. And then by the time you finish and then you accept it, there might be nothing. So, that's what keeps you going. And that means you're always anxious, and that's it. Looking back now, would you have done that 3 years down the line? Whatever happened now, or what advice would you give people after a few assignments, take a break, or what do you think we should do?
I think it depends on the individual. Certainly, we are all more aware of our well-being, our mental well-being now, and life is very different 10 years on. And we all need that break. At the time, I felt I was getting it because I was kind of working during school hours, and then when my daughter was in bed, and every other weekend her dad had her, so I just worked those weekends. So I had my time where it was just me or me and my daughter, and it worked very well, to be fair. I think about 3 years in, I started to relax, and I thought, actually, what's a week without working? I can use those weeks for useful things and actually relax a little bit. But it did take a good couple of years.
Perfect. And perhaps, as you mentioned that you are, in highways, in UK highways, transport, etc., that was your domain expertise. Did you actually went on and specialize yourself in that one sector, or did you also went on and added other sectors so that it gave you a little bit more flexibility?
So I did sector hop, and I still do, actually. It just so happens that these days so many of our clients are within highways and civil engineering that we probably do 80-90% of that. But in those early years, when I was trying to establish myself through tender companies, that I did sector hop, and I did some brilliant bids. I did some brilliant bids for detention officers in police stations. I did a forensic science bid with the lovely Paul Harding, who's become a friend, who you interviewed a while back. I did, what else have I done? I've done energy bids, I've done facilities management, all sorts. And yes, I did sector hop, and I find that when you do that, it builds a level of understanding of bidding that you don't get if you stay within the same sector. In the fact that every bid is different, you tend to new sectors, you tend to probe a little bit more into the answers, whereas highways I'm so comfortable with. I do ask the right questions, but quite often I know the answer because it's my background. So I quite like sector hopping because it really makes me rethink how I do things, and it makes me grow. And for that reason, it's good for my clients as well.
That's brilliant, Pippa. And again, end of the day, the functional role that we do is still bid and proposal management. It's just the sector that we operate is different. Is my thinking right, Pippa? That should give us the confidence to go ahead and do as many sectors as possible, not just be constrained by the fact that we are not specialists in that thing, but we are specialists in doing bids and proposals.
Absolutely. If you know how to manage a bid and you know how to write a compelling answer and work out what the evaluation criteria is, you can pretty much hop into any sector, in my opinion. I do know that my highways clients kind of think differently but I think that's because of the service that we offer over and above the kind of the parachute bid writer. We do help them come up with the solutions as well, and we can only do that because we've got the technical knowledge. But if you're literally going in to manage the process and write the words from the SMEs, then yes, sector hop all the time. It's a really good idea.
Perfect, Pips. And then, now let's come to the people element of becoming a freelancer. Once you're a freelancer, you enter the door. There will be, in some companies, they might not have any other people. So you become that one person trying to bring everything together. Whereas in other cases, there are already existing people. What advice would you give? Because they might be intimidated with your presence, or they might think, oh my God, this person is coming in paid like 5 times more than what I'm paid, asking me to do the same thing.
So you say that about the pay. You may say we're paid 5 times more, but we have a lot of costs, It's not quite as simple as that. For example, sick and holiday, we don't get any of that. But yeah, going into a new company, with the smaller companies that don't have a bidding function, I'm kind of met by, people that are a bit rabbit in headlights. They don't know what they're doing. You're there to save the day, basically. Those are lovely. But I have gone into companies where it's a big bid team. And I do remember being in a kickoff meeting with a company once, and everybody was introducing themselves. And one of the bid writers stood up and said, well, I'm a bid writer and I've been doing this for 20 years. And it was pretty much, I don't know why you're here. So that can be awkward, but we are essentially people. And part of being a successful freelancer is that you learn to adapt and you learn to communicate and consult properly with every single different type of person. If you're going to get the best out of a company, you need to be comfortable talking to the CEO, and you need to be comfortable talking to the boys on site that are delivering the works.
Totally, Pips. I think that's something which came out strongly. Even last week, I was speaking to a colleague, which said, when you are working with this, and when you're working with a founder-driven company, where the entire solution needs to come from the managing director or the, whatever the title that person has, he or she will say yes, but they might not be able to give you that. So you might be trained in all the best practices, but is that interpersonal skills of understanding what ticks for that particular company. You need to very quickly adapt yourself to that to make it happen.
Absolutely. And adapting yourself to those individuals and their personalities and how they communicate. Especially when you're trying to get information out of a group of people, they will all provide the information differently or require more input from you or less input from you. So it's quickly working out the lay of the land, really.
Totally, Pips. I think freelancer, you just go on a daily basis or you go on an hourly basis and you just sort a specific problem. Then you gradually, I'm sure, when you onboard multiple clients at the same time, perhaps on a retainer basis, you become a consultant, right? Which is slightly a different version of what we are doing. When was that time where you just moved on from doing this one project on a sequential basis into onboarding multiple clients and
probably about 4 or 5 years, I think. And I suddenly found myself doing 2, 3 at a time, talking to clients, and things were kind of starting to overlap. But I was in control. It was all good. I was in control. I was enjoying doing what I was doing. I'd learned the art of saying no to most people, apart from the odd few. But those were the ones that I tended to be very honest with and say, I am doing this other one. I can help you, but I'll have to use a couple of my evenings, sort of thing. And it was, I've got a good relationship with most of my core clients in the fact that they become friends and you kind of understand how each other ticks. And I still get it now. It's the whole, Pippa, I know you can slot this in, But I do say no sometimes now.
I think it's important, Pips, but when you look at the transition, Pips, even when you're working on a day rate basis or hourly basis, when the bid gets delayed or when there is some issues with the bids where you originally been called, here we go, come and do this for 5 days, and that's what you are positioned at, but then now you are doing a lot more, but they still ask you to do more for less. Working on a consultancy basis means that you might be having a set fee arranged on a retainer basis, but it might go over, it might go most probably at par, but very rarely it will go under. What advice would you give people just on the commercials part when you move from freelancer to consultant? When they said, hey, you're taking 3 clients, 4 clients now, especially as a one-person band, that becomes a bit challenging, right, Pips? Any tips there?
It does. I'm not quite sure how others do it, but I've never been able to work on a retainer basis. I have always gone for, you pay for my time.
Yeah.
I will log my hours, and when I get to 8 hours, I will charge you a day. And I've had to keep it like that because a lot of my clients are competitors, and it's first come, first served. And I think if I had them on retainers, then they'd say, well, but I'm on a retainer, so you've got to work for me. And also some bids can take 3 months and some can take 5 days. So it's always been, you're paying for my time and my knowledge and my experience, as opposed to you're paying me to to be at your beck and call.
That's brilliant, Pips. I think because there are different models that's been floated around.
Absolutely.
This is where we just need to bring people to reality that says, hey, even with a known procurement life cycle, where it's officially written in tender documents at 8 weeks, the chances of it gets delayed is super high. Whereas, how can you estimate roughly, at an average, a bid will be 10 days, and then this. So that's brilliant. So
now, it doesn't have to be complicated, and as long as you are clear and honest with your clients and say, look, this bid is due back on the 12th of May. That gives us so many working days. I don't think I'll need all those working days, but that's worst case scenario. And I will, and some clients I used to do timesheets for. So it's all very open and clear, and they knew exactly what they were getting. But most of them that I've been working with a long time now will trust that whatever it takes, it takes.
Perfect. So I think now we are building the blocks gradually. You came on board with a lot of doubt, self-belief, trusted relationships. Now you started to get more projects, and the more projects then ended up doing multiple projects. Again, the trusted relationships enabled you to say, here we go, I'll sort it out. You know me. But let's just add it in this way, 3-4 projects. So you evolved into Pips becomes 1.5 times Pips to do whatever that projects that she's doing. At some point, you might have seen, I'm working long and late here. I just need to go for that next person. When did
So that was COVID's fault. Because right up until the day that I put the recruitment advert out, I even had the conversation with someone. I don't want staff. I didn't get in this to manage people. I got in it to do my own thing. I know that having staff brings a whole host of other things I'll have to do, and I just don't have time for that. But during COVID, because we didn't really have anything else to do, I ended up working long hours, 7 days a week, and my clients were looking towards what was going to happen after COVID, so we were kind of applying for more things, and I thought, I can't keep going at this pace. I just didn't feel very well after that, so I did crunch the numbers with my partner, who is a really good sounding board of mine, and worked out that actually I could afford to take one other person on, and again that terrified me. It terrified me going into freelancing. So, but we did the figures. So I put my advert out, and I got a lot of applicants at the time. I think a lot of people have been furloughed or made redundant, and I ended up instead of taking on one, I took on two. Most people know this story. So Hannah came on because she was the right fit, and just what I was looking for. And I took Katie on because she really, really impressed me with her drive and her wish to become a bid writer. And she was the first person I'd ever heard actually said that she targeted a career in bidding. And she'd done lots of things to get herself there. She'd found a mentor in Charlotte Rees. She'd done one of Jeremy Brim's courses. She'd really focused on trying to get into bidding. And I felt that Pipster would be a good opportunity for her. So I took them both on.
Perfect. Now, as you know, you've got two more people, which might have reduced your workload, or in your story, it actually increased the workload.
It does, because do you know what? I wouldn't change this for the world. I love Team Pipster, absolutely. I love having them around. They are a great bunch of people. However, having people took me away from what I love to do, which is to write bids and help people win. So because I was having to do the business side of things. But I can honestly say, well, are we 15 months down the line now, that things are starting to, obviously we have our peaks and troughs where I do a lot more work to get things over the line. And then, you know, when we don't have a deadline, I can kind of sit back and do other things. But yeah, you know there's going to be the business people admin things to do, but you don't quite. I think everybody will underestimate exactly what it takes to have staff. And I don't think I ever underestimated it, because I always said I didn't want to do it. And when it happened, it still took me by surprise.
Yes, that's it. I think, it's just a different sort of what we call I wouldn't say stress, but it's kind of a different sort of experience where, now you have two more people. So you just need to look after them at the same time. That brings up with their own extra baggage of, okay, I need to plan my work ahead, so. So how did you balance that, Pips? Before it was just you, so you could take a break, but now you have a team, and now it's not two, right? Now you have 7 people within the team. That happened very quickly. What happened in that 15 months? We got 2 people. And amazing, we started to work with them, started to onboard more clients now. How did you scale it up very quickly to 7?
It was a bit of a combination of, I always tell people I sneeze and then somebody else comes, but that's probably not the right answer. It was a bit of a combination of planning and taking opportunities when they arose. So the third one came on because she asked if I had any jobs available when the recruitment came out, but she wasn't right at that time. And the more I spoke to her, the more I thought, actually, no, we need a coordinator now. You'd be great. It would give you the job that you crave. She came on. Then there was Ali, who I talked to a long time about working, but I didn't really feel that I had the position for her. And then I had a client ask for some help with some NHS bids, and Ali was perfect for that. So I said, how about you come on board and that'll be your first contract, sort of thing. And then Sajia was one of my interns. So all this time I felt that I wasn't doing the right thing by the staff in terms of human resources things, employee handbooks and information and things like that kind of most big companies would have. So we took on 3 interns that summer. Yeah, that was supposed to be 1, but there were 3 of them that just blew me away, and I thought, I can't choose, so you can all come and do something. So I had the 3 interns on, and then one of them was looking for work at the end of it while she was doing her master's, and I said, how about you stay on for 2 days a week? So that's Sajia, and she's actually now decided to stay full-time with us and make a career in bidding, which is brilliant. And then Matt came on board because I needed someone with a little bit more of a highways and technical background, because a lot of the clients like to have help with their solutions, and they like to have people that understand what they do on site. And there are certain sectors that do like that technical knowledge in their writers and their bid managers. So Matt came on board January this year.
Perfect. Perhaps I think, as you rightly said, you were just building on, and you just had some new people who are totally new to proposals. You kind of mentored them, coached them into what good looks like, and then you put forward. How was it, Pips? Because so far it's all based on your relationships, and people are very comfortable the moment you step into any building or any meeting or any virtual meeting, anything, Pips will sort it out. But now you are introducing some other person on your behalf. How did you balance the client's expectation on that? Is it going to be still the same because now there is no more Pips, but Pips is in arm's length? Second one is, what messages are you telling to your team Pipster so that, hey guys, this is it, follow this? How do you do that?
Another scary moment, because you know that your clients get comfortable with you as a person, and you have that innate knowledge of them and their working practices, and it was a very well-oiled machine for some of them. So I knew they were going to be difficult. New clients is not a problem. You know, my team know what they're doing, they're experienced, they are just as good as me. So with new clients, it's easy to put the rest of the staff on them. It's these ones that are ingrained, that have worked with me for 10 years. Some of them I've known for 20. And it's just trying to, I guess I kind of drip fed the team into them initially, to the point that they would do a couple of questions and I'd give them the phone number to go and ring up and ask for extra input, to the point that now some of our clients actually ask for members of my team before me. So that's worked really well. There are some clients that will never want not to have my hand on something, and that's the nature of those long-term relationships. But we do quite a lot of teamwork now. Katie and I are working on something that's due in this Friday. You know, Hannah and I work with a certain client. Jo and I work with another client. She might do most of the work, but I'll come in and do the reviews because I know the clients. I've worked with them for a long time. So I probably do a bit more reviewing now rather than writing. But you know, I haven't taken these people on for no reason. I've taken them on because they're good at what they do. They write brilliantly. They're people. Again, they're people. They can build those relationships that I can as well. And I would never, I'd have never taken them on if I didn't think they couldn't do that, because I have a level of commitment to my clients anyway. So I'd never put anyone with them that wasn't good enough.
Totally, Pips. I think, as you rightly said, there are multiple factors associated, and it all based on the word trust. You trusted yourself, you trusted your team, and you trusted your clients, and the triangle somehow work together. But behind the scenes, there is a lot of work that goes behind. So obviously, when you are writing a proposal, that has a different tone and that has a different way, and you might be very comfortable with it. But when somebody else writes for you, it's not the same. How did you kind of calmed yourself down in a way?
It took a while, I have to say, because I write in a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, I have my own style, which is very simple, to be fair. I'm not into flowery stuff. But I think I do quite a lot of reviews with them, and we will go through their answers, and I'll go, don't like that one, and I go, oh no, that's a Pipperism, isn't it? We need. I think they've started a glossary of things Pippa hates. So yeah, so I drip feed quite a lot of myself into their writing. However, they are individuals and they do know how to answer a question. So sometimes it's a case of, actually, you've answered the question really well there. I wouldn't have done it that myself, but that will score the marks. As in, you know, it's good writing. It's just a slightly different style.
Totally. Now, you know, you're working with a lot of clients and your team is growing. You know, what sort of basic foundations do you think people need to have in place when they go from being one person into, say, 3 or 5 or 6 or 7, the basic foundations, Pips?
So I've been thinking about this, and don't do it like I did. It's the first bit of advice I would give. I would think very carefully about whether you can pay their wages at the end of the day, because that is really what is important to them, is that that they get paid. So Not that that's ever been an issue, but that has worried me, that I take on enough work to feed the team, as it were. I think if I was doing it again, I'd sit down and I'd probably write a bit of a business plan. What sort of work will be coming in over the next year? What sort of revenue can I get? How much is it going to cost me? There are certain things that cost the business quite a lot, but they're very important to me, like our monthly team days. So they're not only costing kind of, the room hire, the travel, the hotels, because my team's split across the country, but we're also not earning on that day. So they cost a lot, but I think the benefits of those outweigh the cost. Because otherwise we wouldn't be such a good team if we weren't meeting regularly. So I've got one in Cornwall, I've got one in London, I've got one in Cambridgeshire, one in the north of Somerset, and a couple one in Somerset, and then one down in Dorset. So everybody's kind of quite far apart. So it does cost a lot to bring everyone together once a month, but I think it's vital. So yeah, have a business plan, work out what you think is going to come in, work out what you need to cover. And do not forget about all the other extra things. Like, it's not just a laptop and a phone and a bit of software. It is the extra peripherals, like I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. So your tax, your national insurance, your PAYE stuff. So there's another good tip: get a good accountant that can do all that for you. And actually, one of my big tips was freelancing, was get an accountant on board before you start, because they will be able to advise you with so many things. My accountant's amazing. She does my VAT and my PAYE and talks me through things that I can do better. She doesn't pay the wages though, which is one of my big mistakes right at the beginning. The first wage packet that Hannah and Katie got, we all got pay slips. I was like, oh, this is good. This is like it used to be when I was employed. And I just kind of put mine to one side, and about a week later the girl said, oh, when are we actually going to get paid? I said, what do you mean? I said, pay slips came out the other day. And they said, no, it hasn't gone in our banks. I rang up my accountant and went, nobody's been paid. She said, no, Pippa. She said, you've got to do that. So yeah, I've made mistakes on the way, but I think that's because it's this whole intuition thing. I saw the need. I needed to fill the need. I filled it, and then I went, right, what should I be doing here? Whereas actually what you should really be doing is planning before that need arises, and making sure that everything's in place first. So I do make mistakes, but the team have been with me along the way, and they've been very good about my mistakes.
Totally, Pips. As you rightly said, nobody has a solid working plan or anything, but as you rightly said, you just start and you just went on with it. You build up your own structure. It could be weekly calls, or it could be monthly face-to-face meetings in between, client calls to ask to check their progress, how team is happening. And, that means that your diary is still full, but not in writing bits, but in much more, as you rightly said, on the quality side, both within the team and also as a relationship side with the clients on the other side as well. So have you worked out now whether there is any optimum balance between the people that you have versus the clients that you can onboard, or is it also something that you take it as it comes?
We still take it as it comes. I mean, I think as a company we've become more visible overall anyway, certainly on social media, and that's down to it's kind of down to Sajia and her managing that for me, so that we can do other things. And so I am getting 2 or 3 inquiries a week. But this year, it's now that we're all on board, this year it's about looking at company processes, being efficient, expectations, bit of performance management, so everyone knows what they need to do. We've now got a company structure, which sounds odd for 7 people, but it was something that was identified at Christmas, that they felt more comfortable with some sort of structure. So it's also helped me. So I've got my senior bid writers, Hannah and Matt, now, and it means that although I loved the whole we're all in it together, it's actually helped me be able to get back to do what I love now, because I'm not getting all the staffing things. Sajia manages any HR inquiries like holidays and things like that, so I don't have to get involved in that anymore. And Joe's helping me with the financial side, so that's not the burden it was.
Perfect. now you have got a kind of a high level fluid structure, Pips. Obviously, gradually your mind before, as you mentioned, when you were freelancer, you had relationship with the clients and you were up, and you also registered yourself with some interim agencies. Today, you should have a client onboarding. What do you think is the best way to find clients and onboard them?
I've never had to do that, Bhaskar. That's a really hard question. So I've literally never had to look for work apart from in those early days. So it just seems to come in. And I guess what I do with new clients is it's always me that speaks to them first. So I will set up, at the moment it's a Teams meeting, but just because it's convenient and most of my clients are a long way away. I do some initial in-face things, but we tend to do a Teams meeting and I'll set out, what we can offer, but what my expectations are about how the client works with us as well. Because there isn't always a good fit. I know we really have our niche of SMEs now. That's where we can add the best value because they're up for, developing those long-term relationships with us. Whereas perhaps the large companies do want somebody just to come in and write the bid and disappear again. So I'm always very clear with expectations on clients. They always want to hear how we invoice, how much time we can be on site with them. The one good thing about COVID was everybody got on board with the whole Teams and Zoom thing and working remotely. So what I used to have to do as a freelancer was explain that I'm not going to come and sit in your office for 6 weeks. I've got a daughter. But I will come for kickoff meetings. I will come for mid reviews. I will come to, kind of finish it off. But now I don't have to explain that because a lot of clients will say, well, no, we do everything on Teams now or Zoom. So it's me kind of saying, let me come and meet you for a day and see what happens at your offices, just so that we can start to build that knowledge of the company. This is once they're saying, definitely we want you to come and work with us.
Perfect, Pips. Again, 2012, when Pippa went freelance to now Pipster Solutions with 7+ team member. What's next for Pipster Solutions?
I don't know. I'm just trying to get my head around what we've got now this year and just consolidating it all and continuing to provide that service. I suppose I still have a hankering of doing more with bringing people into the industry. And getting the bidding career out there as early as possible, so children know about it really and know how amazing it can be. So I still have lots to do on that. We are writing a bid internship which we're going to trial this summer for university students. I do want to do something with secondary schools at some point, and I think actually once the team is running well, if I find myself without a bid, that's when it gives me the opportunity to do those extracurricular things. I'd like to do more with the APMP. I'd like to take on more mentees as part of rapport. There's all sorts of things I want to do that are not, I guess, billable. And actually having a team around me is going to enable me to do more for others.
Perfect, Pips, 100%. I know you're going to be a lot more successful, mainly because of the big heart. It's totally impressive. There are, you let your work speak. You let your relationship to come to you rather than the other way around, which is very unique. And hence you are in this talking about how to become a freelancer and scaling it to consulting. I think any final pointers, Pips? I mean, because like me, you are a very reluctant entrepreneur. You never planned this. You just let things flow in between. in between, you get the right people, you get the right type of clients, and you just work along. Then you build, then you grow. Final thoughts, especially COVID now, because from our analysis, I think we published a talent survey. 50% are looking to change their roles, the proposal roles. We had close to 900+ entries, Pips, out of which 50% are looking to change. Interestingly, 22% are looking to change within, but the rest are looking to change elsewhere, out of which 5% are looking to take sabbatical, take a final break, quit, not doing this anymore. and some like 11% are looking to move freelance. For those people, COVID has given a compelling event. It enabled you to scale from 1 to 7, and I'm sure 7 will become 70 soon. What final advice would you give these people who are looking to become a freelancer? And do you think they should very quickly accelerate to become a bit consulting with few people, or at what point do they need to scale from your experience?
Ooh, that's hard. I can give anybody that wants to go freelancing, I can point you in the direction of something that Ben from Bid Solutions and I created, a few years ago now, a journey to freelancing. So it gets you to ask all the right questions about why you're doing it, what you need, what do you do if, for example, you have no work, what do you do if somebody else is up for the same contract as you, that sort of thing. So we created this really quite helpful roadmap. Well, it was like a bit like a Indiana Jones journey map. So I do have copies of those for people if they want them. I'd quite like to do something simple for anybody that's looking to scale up to consultancy, but I think I need to learn a little bit more myself first before advising others. I think if you really want to make it work, you will. Just get the right advice. Always get an accountant. And if you are on your own and you're looking to scale up from that, I would ask yourself a very serious question about if you do that and it takes you away from what you love to do, is it worth doing? Now, for me, I can say, yes, it absolutely was now, because I wouldn't be without Team Pipster. I think they're brilliant. And I've just learned to manage the extra bits, basically by doing some really, really clever delegation as well. But it's go for it. If that is what you want to do, go for it.
Totally. So I think very, very profound. I think you need to experience that yourself. Everybody will have their own unique experiences. For some people, it breaks their personality because in your case, sociable person. So, you were able to, reach out to people and when to stop and you are able to, but for others, there might be good writers, which means they might not have this wider interpersonal skills to go and build relationship to make it happen. So if that's the case, register yourself with some agencies who will be able to give you that sort of work, etc. But as you rightly said, experience new things, and I'm sure it will take you to somewhere.
I think the key thing is, Bhaskar, if you are enjoying what you are doing the right thing. If it becomes to the point where you're not enjoying it anymore, you have to question either what could change to make it how it was before, or is it really for you? And there's never any shame in going back to being employed if you're a consultant. I know plenty of people that have made the move and are much happier now that they've gone back to being employed. Some people I know have taken the leap and become really successful. My mentee he was furloughed and then he got made redundant during COVID, and then he thought, I'll set up my own company, and now he's as busy as I am. So he's another success story in all this, and he loves it. So I think you've just got to, the only way to do any freelancing, any consulting, is you have to be really committed and you have to really love what you do.
Brilliant note to end there, Pips. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on a busy schedule here, Pips. I'm sure this will trigger a lot of questions behind. We'll keep you posted on this. But until then, stay healthy, stay happy, keep us inspiring. And I'll speak to you very soon, Pips. Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar. Thank you for having me. Anybody can contact me if they've got questions. It's not a problem.
Perfect, Pips. Thank you.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.